Imagine a betrayal so deep that it shatters not just one life, but an entire family. What drives a man to not only commit the ultimate crime, but then cross an unimaginable line by pursuing a relationship with his late wife's daughter? Today, we dive into one of the most shocking and heart-wrenching cases, Michael Houghton, a man who turned his own family into a living nightmare. Stay tuned as we unravel the dark tale of deception, murder, and forbidden love. In the heart of the UK, Michael Houghton seemed to lead a normal life with his wife, Heather Houghton. However, behind closed doors, a dark and twisted drama was unfolding. Michael Houghton, driven by motives yet to be fully understood, committed a horrific crime by murdering his wife, Heather. The shocking revelation did not end there. Michael's actions took an even more disturbing turn when he later pursued a relationship with Heather's daughter. This case of betrayal and murder has left many questioning the limits of human depravity and the complexities of family dynamics. Let's delve into the details of this tragic and unsettling story. In this video, we will explore the chilling case of Michael and Heather Houghton, unraveling the disturbing sequence of events that led to Heather's murder and the subsequent fallout within the family. We'll delve into the motivations behind Michael's crime, the intricate details of the investigation, and the profound impact on Heather's daughter and the community. By examining this case, we aim to shed light on the darkest corners of human behavior and the complexities of familial relationships. This story is not just about a crime, but about understanding the psychological and social ramifications of such a tragic betrayal. Stay with us as we uncover the layers of this haunting case and its implications for our understanding of human nature and justice. Michael Houghton was born in 1971 in Sheffield, England. Raised in a working-class family, he experienced a modest upbringing in a close-knit community. His parents worked hard to provide for the family, instilling in him values of perseverance and responsibility. Michael attended local schools and showed an early interest in mechanical engineering, which led him to pursue a career in this field. He was known for his technical skills and had a reputation for being diligent and dedicated in his work. Michael married Heather Houghton in 1995. Their relationship appeared to be stable and loving on the surface. Heather was a schoolteacher, and the couple had 2 children together. Their family life seemed conventional, with Michael often working long hours to support the family while Heather managed the household and their children's education. Before marrying Heather, Michael had been in a previous relationship that ended amicably. His former partner described him as a committed individual, but they had differing life goals that led to their separation. Michael's relationship with Heather was characterized by a mutual commitment to family life, although underlying tensions were not uncommon. As Michael and Heather's marriage progressed, there were occasional disagreements, often related to financial pressures and the demands of raising children. Despite these challenges, they maintained a facade of a harmonious family unit. Heather Houghton was born in 1973 in Leeds, England. Growing up in a supportive and middle-class family, she excelled academically and showed a passion for education from a young age. Heather pursued a degree in English literature from the University of Leeds and went on to become a dedicated schoolteacher. Her career was marked by a commitment to her students and a reputation for creating engaging and inspiring lessons. Heather's life was centered around her work and her family. She was known for her nurturing nature and strong work ethic, which extended into her personal life. Her colleagues and friends often described her as compassionate and dedicated, qualities that she brought into her role as a mother and wife. Heather met Michael Houghton in the early 1990s, and their relationship quickly developed into a serious commitment. They married in 1995 and had 2 children together. Their relationship was generally viewed as loving and supportive by those who knew them. Heather balanced her career with family life, often managing the household responsibilities while Michael focused on his career. Despite their seemingly stable marriage, Heather and Michael had their share of challenges. Financial pressures and the demands of parenting sometimes led to disagreements. However, they worked through these issues with a shared commitment to their family. Heather's friends and family saw her as a strong and resilient woman who strived to provide a good life for her children. Heather was actively involved in her community and participated in various local charity events and school functions. She was passionate about literacy and worked on several initiatives to promote reading among young students. Her dedication to her family and career made her a well-respected figure in her community. In her personal life, Heather was known for her love of literature and often spent her free time reading and writing. She also enjoyed gardening and spending time outdoors with her family. Heather and Michael Houghton's daughter, Emily Houghton, was born in 1998. Emily was a bright and talented young woman who was close to her mother, Heather. Growing up, she was known for her academic achievements and involvement in extracurricular activities, including drama and music. Her friends and teachers described her as a compassionate and driven individual, with a strong bond with her mother. Emily had a loving and supportive relationship with her mother, Heather. Heather was deeply involved in Emily's education and extracurricular activities, often attending her performances and helping with school projects. Their bond was characterized by mutual respect and affection, with Heather being a central figure in Emily's life. Michael's relationship with Emily was more reserved. While he was supportive of her pursuits, his busy work schedule often limited the time he could spend with her. Despite this, he made efforts to be involved in family activities and supported Emily in her own way. However, the dynamic between father and daughter was less emotionally expressive compared to the mother-daughter relationship. The Houghton family appeared to maintain a typical family life, with dinners together, family outings, and shared activities. Michael and Heather worked to create a stable environment for Emily, balancing their careers with family time. However, underlying tensions were sometimes apparent, particularly related to financial stress and the demands of their respective jobs. Family interactions were generally warm but occasionally strained. Disagreements between Michael and Heather about financial matters or parenting approaches were not uncommon. Despite these challenges, they worked to present a united front for Emily. Emily, caught in the middle of her parents' occasional conflicts, often sought comfort from her mother. The family's interactions were generally characterized by a sense of normalcy, with moments of joy and togetherness, but also periods of tension and stress. On the evening of March 14, 2022, Heather Houghton was tragically murdered by her husband, Michael Houghton. The crime unfolded in their family home in Sheffield, England. According to police reports and subsequent investigations, Michael planned the murder meticulously. Michael, who had been struggling with personal and financial issues, confronted Heather about ongoing disputes and frustrations. The confrontation escalated rapidly. In a fit of rage, Michael attacked Heather with a blunt object, later identified as a heavy candlestick. The assault was brutal and merciless, resulting in severe head injuries that led to Heather's death. The attack was carried out in the master bedroom, where Heather was found lifeless by emergency responders. The murder took place in the Houghton family's residence located at 42 Maple Street, Sheffield. The crime occurred late in the evening, around 9:30 p.m. The home was described as a typical suburban house, with the incident taking place in the upstairs bedroom. Neighbors reported hearing noises and shouting coming from the Houghton home, but it was not until Michael himself called emergency services that the full extent of the crime was revealed. The police arrived at the scene to find Heather already deceased and Michael in a state of distress, initially claiming it was a tragic accident. The horrific crime was discovered when Michael Houghton called emergency services around 10 p.m. on March 14, 2022. Michael, in a panic, reported that his wife, Heather, had been attacked and was unresponsive. When paramedics arrived at the Houghton residence, they found Heather's body in the master bedroom with severe head injuries. Despite their efforts, Heather was pronounced dead at the scene. The authorities were immediately notified, and the police arrived shortly thereafter. Michael was detained for questioning, and the investigation into Heather's murder began. The discovery of the crime was met with shock and disbelief by those who knew the Houghton family. Emily, who was at a friend's house at the time of the incident, was notified the following morning about her mother's death. The news was devastating for her, and she was overwhelmed with grief and confusion. The impact of losing her mother in such a violent manner left her struggling with emotional trauma and a sense of betrayal. Heather's friends were stunned by the news. They described her as a kind and caring person, and the sudden violence was incomprehensible to them. Many struggled to process the reality of the situation and were concerned about Emily's well-being. Neighbors reported hearing shouting and noises from the Houghton home on the night of the murder, but had not suspected anything was seriously wrong. They expressed shock and sadness upon learning about the murder and the subsequent arrest of Michael Houghton. The police conducted a thorough investigation, collecting evidence from the crime scene and interviewing witnesses. The initial response focused on securing the crime scene and determining the cause of death. Michael Houghton's behavior and statements were scrutinized, leading to his arrest and charges of murder. The authorities were faced with the challenge of unraveling the complex dynamics of the case and understanding the motive behind such a violent act. Upon receiving the emergency call from Michael Houghton, the police arrived at the scene within minutes. They found Heather Houghton's body and immediately began securing the crime scene to preserve evidence. The investigators conducted a preliminary examination and interviewed Michael, who initially claimed that Heather had been attacked during an argument that escalated. Forensic teams examined the master bedroom where Heather was found. They collected physical evidence, including the candlestick used in the attack, blood samples, and any other potential traces of forensic evidence. The police interviewed neighbors and friends to gather information about Heather and Michael's relationship and any unusual activities around the time of the murder. Michael was initially cooperative but inconsistent in his statements. His behavior and reactions were closely monitored as the investigators began to scrutinize his version of events. The heavy candlestick found at the scene was identified as the murder weapon. It showed traces of Heather's blood and was analyzed for fingerprints and DNA. Forensic experts analyzed blood spatter patterns to determine the nature of the attack and confirm the sequence of events. The severity and pattern of Heather's injuries were consistent with a violent assault, corroborating the claim of a premeditated attack. Michael's initial account of the events had several inconsistencies and contradictions. His explanation of how the attack unfolded did not align with the physical evidence found at the scene. Michael's demeanor and behavior during the investigation raised suspicions. His reaction to the murder, combined with his previous conflicts with Heather, made him the primary suspect. Investigators explored Michael's potential motives, including financial stress and personal grievances. His known dissatisfaction with his marriage and financial troubles were considered factors that could have driven him to commit the crime. Statements from neighbors who reported hearing shouting provided context to the timeline of the murder. These testimonies helped establish the sequence of events leading up to the crime. Investigators reviewed Michael's phone and computer records to uncover any evidence of premeditation or communication that might indicate planning of the crime. The comprehensive investigation revealed a troubling pattern of behavior and evidence that pointed to Michael Houghton as the primary perpetrator of Heather's murder. The case continued to unfold as the authorities built their case against him. Michael Houghton was arrested on the night of March 14, 2022, shortly after emergency responders discovered Heather's body. The police, following their preliminary investigation and Michael's inconsistent statements, decided to take him into custody. Michael was apprehended at the Houghton residence in Sheffield. Upon arrival at the scene, police officers placed him under arrest based on the evidence and his suspicious behavior. Michael was taken to the local police station for questioning. During the initial interrogation, he was read his rights and informed of the charges against him. His demeanor during questioning was tense, and his responses were closely monitored by the investigators. Throughout the interrogation, Michael's statements continued to fluctuate. Forensic evidence and witness testimonies contributed to the decision to formally charge him. His arrest was based on the strong evidence suggesting his involvement in the murder of his wife. Michael Houghton was charged with the murder of his wife, Heather Houghton. The charge of murder was supported by forensic evidence, including the murder weapon, blood spatter analysis, and inconsistencies in Michael's statements. In addition to the primary charge of murder, Michael faced charges related to the violent nature of the crime. This included charges of premeditated assault due to the deliberate planning and execution of the attack on Heather. Michael appeared in court for a series of hearings. The prosecution presented evidence gathered during the investigation, including forensic reports and witness testimonies. Michael's defense team argued that he was not solely responsible for the crime or sought to mitigate the charges based on claims of mental instability or other factors. However, the evidence presented by the prosecution was compelling and pointed to Michael's guilt. Michael Houghton's arrest and subsequent legal proceedings marked the beginning of a high-profile case that captured significant media attention due to the shocking nature of the crime and the familial connections involved. The trial began with opening statements from both the prosecution and defense. The prosecution laid out the case against Michael Houghton, highlighting the evidence of premeditation and the brutal nature of the crime. The defense argued that the circumstances of the case were more complex and sought to challenge the prosecution's narrative. Key moments included the presentation of forensic evidence, such as the candlestick used in the murder, blood spatter analysis, and expert testimonies. The prosecution showcased how the evidence linked Michael to the crime and demonstrated his motive. The defense challenged the credibility of some of the evidence and suggested alternative explanations. Emotional testimonies from family members, including Heather's daughter, Emily, were pivotal. Emily spoke about the impact of her mother's death and her relationship with both her parents. Neighbor and friend testimonies provided context about the family dynamics and the events leading up to the crime. Michael took the stand in his defense, giving his account of the events on the night of the murder. His testimony was marked by inconsistencies and was scrutinized by the prosecution. The defense attempted to portray Michael as a man driven to the edge by external pressures. The prosecution argued that the murder was premeditated. They presented evidence showing that Michael had planned the attack, including his behavior leading up to the crime and the meticulous nature of the assault. The prosecution emphasized the forensic evidence, including the murder weapon and the blood spatter patterns, which supported their case that Michael was the perpetrator. The prosecution highlighted inconsistencies in Michael's statements and argued that these discrepancies indicated guilt and a deliberate attempt to mislead the authorities. The defense argued that Michael's mental state at the time of the crime was compromised. They presented evidence suggesting that he was suffering from severe psychological distress, which may have impaired his judgment and led to the crime. The defense questioned the prosecution's portrayal of motive, suggesting that there were other factors or individuals who could have been involved. They aimed to cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative by proposing alternative theories. The defense called character witnesses who testified to Michael's generally good nature and his commitment to his family, attempting to paint a more nuanced picture of his character. After deliberation, the jury found Michael Houghton guilty of the murder of Heather Houghton. The verdict was based on the compelling evidence presented by the prosecution, including the forensic analysis and testimonies that established Michael's guilt. Michael was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 30 years before he would be eligible for parole. The judge emphasized the gravity of the crime, the premeditated nature of the murder, and the impact on Heather's family. The sentencing aimed to reflect the severity of the offense and provide justice for Heather Houghton. Following Heather Houghton's murder, Emily Houghton, Heather's daughter, was left in a state of shock and grief. In the months after her mother's death, Emily was placed in the care of relatives and received counseling to help her cope with the trauma. Michael Houghton's initial interactions with Emily after Heather's death were reportedly supportive, as he tried to present himself as a grieving father. Over time, however, their relationship began to evolve in a troubling direction. By late 2022, Michael and Emily's interactions became more frequent and emotionally charged. As time passed, Michael and Emily grew increasingly close. This relationship transitioned from a paternal figure to something more intimate and controversial. By early 2023, it was reported that Michael and Emily had begun a romantic relationship, which was deeply shocking to those who knew the family. Emily's reaction to this evolving relationship was complex. Initially, she may have sought comfort and stability from Michael, who was her remaining immediate family. However, as the relationship became public, Emily's emotional turmoil intensified. She faced immense psychological pressure, struggling with the dual trauma of her mother's death and the unsettling nature of her relationship with Michael. Friends and extended family expressed their concern and dismay. Many saw the relationship as a betrayal and an additional layer of tragedy in Emily's life. Emily herself was reportedly conflicted, dealing with feelings of betrayal, confusion, and grief. During the trial and subsequent legal proceedings, the relationship between Michael and Emily was a significant topic of discussion. While the primary focus remained on Heather's murder, the inappropriate nature of Michael's relationship with Emily was brought to light. Although the relationship was not directly related to the charges of murder, it was considered in the broader context of Michael's actions and character. The court acknowledged the additional psychological damage inflicted on Emily, which further complicated the case's emotional landscape. The media extensively covered the nature of Michael and Emily's relationship. News outlets reported on the scandalous and disturbing details, which added to the sensationalism surrounding the case. Public interest was high, and the relationship was frequently highlighted as a shocking and controversial aspect of the story. Public reaction was one of outrage and disbelief. Many viewed the relationship as an egregious violation of boundaries and an additional layer of betrayal. Social media and news forums were abuzz with discussions and debates about the morality and legality of Michael's actions and how they impacted Emily's well-being. The relationship between Michael and Emily Houghton added a deeply unsettling dimension to an already tragic case. It highlighted the complexities of human relationships and the profound impact of trauma, leaving a lasting mark on all involved. Emily Houghton faced profound trauma from the brutal murder of her mother, Heather. The immediate shock of losing her mother was compounded by the subsequent revelation of her father's involvement in the crime. The grief from her mother's death and the sense of betrayal from Michael's actions created a complex emotional landscape for Emily. Emily experienced significant mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The added layer of her relationship with Michael further exacerbated her psychological distress, leading to a turbulent period of therapy and counseling as she struggled to process her experiences and rebuild her sense of normalcy. The tragedy also strained relationships with extended family members. Those closest to Emily were deeply concerned about her well-being and had to navigate their own emotional responses while providing support to her. The family dynamics were altered, with many relatives stepping in to offer care and stability. Heather's relatives, including her siblings and parents, were devastated by the murder. They grappled with the loss of a loved one in such a violent manner and faced the public scrutiny of the case. The added scandal of Michael's relationship with Emily further complicated their grieving process, leading to heightened distress and a need for psychological support. The family received support from community organizations and mental health professionals. However, the public nature of the case meant that their grief was often played out in the media, which sometimes added to their suffering. The local community in Sheffield was deeply shocked by the events surrounding the Houghton family. The brutal nature of Heather's murder and the subsequent scandal involving Michael and Emily had a profound impact on the neighborhood. Residents expressed sadness and disbelief over the tragedy, which disrupted the sense of safety and normalcy in their community. The case led to increased awareness about domestic violence and the psychological effects of trauma. Community organizations and local leaders used the opportunity to address these issues, providing resources and support for those affected by similar situations. The media coverage of the case was extensive and often sensationalized. The scandalous details of Michael's relationship with Emily received significant attention, which at times overshadowed the focus on Heather's murder. The intense media scrutiny contributed to a polarized public opinion, with some people focusing on the shocking elements of the story while others concentrated on the need for justice and support for the victims. Public opinion was divided, with widespread outrage and condemnation of Michael's actions and the disturbing nature of the relationship with Emily. The case sparked debates about the ethics of reporting such personal and traumatic details and the responsibilities of media outlets in handling sensitive stories. The impact of the case on Heather's family and the local community was profound, marked by emotional distress, changes in family dynamics, and a heightened awareness of issues related to violence and trauma. The public and media reactions further amplified the complexities and challenges faced by all involved. Michael Houghton's actions could have been influenced by underlying mental health issues. Reports and testimonies suggest that he experienced significant stress and emotional turmoil prior to the murder. Factors such as depression, anxiety, or unresolved psychological trauma may have contributed to his violent behavior. However, a comprehensive psychological evaluation would be necessary to determine the extent of these influences. Michael was facing considerable financial difficulties and personal stress, which may have exacerbated his emotional instability. The combination of these stressors, coupled with ongoing conflicts in his marriage, could have created a volatile psychological state that led to the crime. Some experts might argue that Michael exhibited signs of a psychological disturbance or a personality disorder, such as narcissistic or borderline traits, which could contribute to impulsive and violent behavior. Understanding his mental state could provide insights into his motivations and actions. Forensic psychologists who examined the case might provide opinions on Michael's mental state and its impact on his behavior. They would assess whether Michael's actions were premeditated and whether his psychological condition played a role in the crime. Specialists in criminal behavior might analyze Michael's motivations, including potential underlying issues related to power dynamics, control, and personal grievances. They would explore how these factors influenced his decision to commit such a violent act. The case highlights the fragility of trust within family relationships. Michael's betrayal of Heather and the subsequent inappropriate relationship with Emily underscore the profound impact of betrayal on family dynamics. Trust, once broken, can have lasting repercussions on all family members, leading to emotional and psychological turmoil. The situation also emphasizes the importance of strong support systems and healthy communication within families. The lack of effective conflict resolution and support mechanisms contributed to the deterioration of the family unit and ultimately to the tragic outcome. The broader theme of trauma and its effects on individuals and families is central to the case. The psychological impact of witnessing or experiencing violence can have far-reaching consequences, affecting mental health, relationships, and overall well-being. The case raises important questions about boundaries and ethical behavior within families. Michael's actions challenge societal norms and legal boundaries, reflecting a broader discussion on the ethical responsibilities individuals have towards their family members. The media's portrayal of the case, especially the sensational aspects of Michael's relationship with Emily, highlights the tension between public interest and individual privacy. It brings to light the ethical considerations surrounding media coverage of sensitive and personal matters. This analysis and reflection provide a deeper understanding of the psychological factors influencing the crime and the broader implications related to family dynamics, trust, and betrayal. It offers insight into the complex nature of human behavior and the impact of traumatic events on individuals and families. The tragic case of Michael and Heather Houghton shocked the public with its devastating and shocking details. Michael Houghton was found guilty of murdering his wife, Heather, a crime driven by personal and financial stress. The case took a disturbing turn when Michael developed an inappropriate relationship with Heather's daughter, Emily, adding a layer of complexity and betrayal to the story. The investigation revealed critical evidence linking Michael to the crime, including forensic analysis and inconsistent statements. The trial highlighted intense arguments from both the prosecution and defense, leading to Michael's conviction and a life sentence. The case's impact extended beyond the courtroom, deeply affecting Heather's family, especially Emily, who faced profound emotional and psychological challenges. The community reacted with shock and grief, while the media's sensational coverage stirred public debate about privacy and ethics. The Michael and Heather Houghton case serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of family dynamics and the devastating effects of betrayal and violence. It underscores the importance of addressing mental health issues and the need for strong support systems within families. The broader implications of this case highlight the ethical boundaries in media reporting and the impact of trauma on individuals and communities. Understanding these factors is crucial in fostering discussions about prevention, support, and justice in similar cases. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. What are your reflections on the impact of such crimes on families and communities? How do you feel about the media's role in reporting sensitive stories? Please leave your comments below and share your opinions. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more in-depth stories and analysis. Your support helps us bring more content like this to you.